So Google is your career coach.
I want more money. Give it to me, please.
We're talking about how to get paid what you deserve. That's right. We're talking about money.
Hi, I'm Gina.
And I'm Jen.
And this is Job Search Stories. As Jen said, we are talking about salary. So I have a comment from a viewer, and I'd love to just get right into it. Scott wrote, I'm looking forward to an episode on salary negotiation. I hate talking about money, but I know I have to get better at it.
I'm with you, Scott. I hate talking about money too.
We all do. We've talked about this a lot on our channel. You and I talk about this a lot. It is just not that fun to talk about money, but it is necessary.
So important.
Have you always felt this way about negotiating salary? Like, is it just always just an icky topic for you?
Yeah, I mean, I've never enjoyed it, but I always try to negotiate. You should always value yourself. And if you know what your value is and you get an offer that's below it, you should at least, attempt to try to improve the situation.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of teased this a little bit in another episode, but yeah, I don't think I really knew that you were supposed to negotiate salary. I just kind of Googled one day and then I figured out you're supposed to just give a range. And so I guess that's negotiating, giving your salary expectations is kind of a form of that. So
Google is your career coach.
I mean, until I met you, it was fate. It was fate for us to meet because now I have my own personal career coach for free.
I think it's important to note, too, that when we talk about negotiating salary, we're not just talking about negotiating a job offer. You can negotiate promotions, too.
How do you know if you should negotiate a salary?
Well, if the offer that comes in is below what you have researched as a fair market value, then that would be an indication that you might want to negotiate it. Even if without research, you're making a certain amount in your current role and the offer for this new role, which would either be similar work or even, greater in responsibility, if that's coming in at less, then you're going to want to talk about salary for sure. If there's a posted range, and the salary that comes in is at the bottom of the range, but based on years of experience or your skill set, you believe and can provide a really strong case for why it should be at the higher end. And if the offer just does not align with what your financial needs are, that means that you should probably have a discussion about it.
But there's some people who are still a little timid, like me, who may be like, okay, I still don't know if I should be negotiating. What's at stake if you're not negotiating your salary?
Well, I mean, to me, the most important thing that's at stake is potential loss of income. In 2017, Glassdoor did a study and found that the average American could be making $7,500 more on top of their current base salary if they had just negotiated. And there's also your immediate financial needs. If you take an offer that's less than what you really need to pay your bills and, survive, that's definitely a reason. And a reason that people are hesitant to negotiate is they think the offer itself is at stake. What if it's pulled because you asked for more? And that's a real fear.
We want to know, do you always negotiate your salary? Let us know in the comments down below. Switching gears a little bit, I'm going to need you to kind of spill the tea on this a little bit. Professional market value. First of all, I want you to tell me how valuable I am, but also, how did you find out your market value?
Yeah, I remember the first time I really started paying attention to what I was making compared to other people was when I was working in higher ed. So I worked for a state university, and that's considered a government agency. And government wages and salaries are public information. So I could go online and see what other people in my office, in similar roles on campus, what they were all making. When you do that type of research, you got to keep in mind, it's not a black and white situation. It's not apples to apples. So there are a lot of things that go into salary. You can't just say, oh, well, that person's making $100,000. I should be making $100,000. But it's one piece of information that will help you kind of determine what that professional market value should be.
Okay.
Have you researched yours?
I mean, I think I definitely started doing it later on in my career. In the beginning, I didn't even know what to do negotiating salary. So I'm definitely not going to know how to find what people are making at my role.
Yeah. I mean, it can be telling. You can either see, okay, I am making a really fair salary or a decent salary.
Yeah.
Or it can also expose those times where there could be gaps in pay.
For sure. And I think that's kind of a good question that job seekers are always asking us. How can you determine how much money you should be making?
So to determine how much money you should be making, it starts with research. You've got to research the market. And the market is both local. What are other people in your field making? If you work remote, you can kind of look nationally too. It's not just the local market that you're going to be looking at. There are also a lot of free tools that you can use. Glassdoor, there are other sites out there like PayScale, but I think a really kind of easy way that you can research salaries is just by looking at job descriptions. And when you're using a job description, you don't want to just look at one, you want to look at multiple because it can vary by company and by industry. So what you're really looking is to get a range. And once you have that range, then you have to assess your value. I know it feels a little bit icky to like think about value in ourselves, but your skills are valuable, right? Your skills and experience, certifications, education, it all kind of bundles into what makes you unique and uniquely qualified. And that's all information that you can use as leverage when you get to an offer negotiation stage.
But what if you're in the job description and they have that huge pay range where they're like, pay range is $75K to $600K. Mm-hmm. What do you do if you see that? And that's your basis for figuring out how much your value is.
Typically, when you see ranges that large, it's not just talking about base salary. It's talking about total compensation.
Okay.
And so then you're going to be looking at base, bonuses, the value of benefits, pay time off, if it's unlimited, the number of sick days, sign-on bonuses. It's the value of stocks. There's so much that can go into it, which is why those ranges sometimes look really wild.
Okay, good. I didn't know the answer to that. So thank you for sharing. For people who don't know how to even start doing this, how do you find out how much it costs to be you? Because I think that will really help people even start knowing how to know how much money they should be making.
Right. And to do this, you got to do a little bit of math. And math is not great. We don't like it. But if you're just trying to figure out what a basic cost of living is for somebody in your area and even somebody with your household size, there's a great free tool by MIT called a living wage calculator. So that's really cool just to establish a baseline. There's also a really great formula that you can use. And this is like ideal situation type formula, right? But it's called the 50-30-20. So 50% of your income should go to your must-haves. Think rent, think food, transportation, gas, all of that. Then 30% of your income should go to your nice-to-haves. These might be subscriptions. These might be getting your nails done. You know, what are those things that you like, but you don't necessarily need? And then 20% should go to debt and savings. So paying off those student loans, putting away money for a rainy day, you know, that's where those funds go.
I would say getting my nails done is a need, but we can talk about that later.
You know what? It's an individual decision on how you define your purchases.
Everybody's priorities are different. Everybody's priorities are different.
All right, Gina. So we are talking about salary and we're talking about negotiation. And I want to put your skills to the test a little bit.
Well, this is going to be embarrassing. Okay.
You're going to be fine. You're going to be fantastic.
Don't judge me.
No. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a little role play. I'm going to offer you a job and a salary, and we're going to go through a little negotiation. Afterwards, I'll let you know what you did really well, and then I'll give you some tips for improvement.
Okay.
Sound good?
I'm ready.
Okay.
Wait. Professional. I'm ready.
Insane. Gina, thank you so much for interviewing with us. I think you're going to be a great addition to this team. For the role for our senior YouTube channel manager, we'd really like to offer you $75,000.
That is great. I'm so excited. I think I can definitely add to this team, but that salary doesn't fit for my needs and my years of experience.
In what way?
I just think that coming from the role that I've done before, I definitely doing a lot more on this team. I have more responsibilities. Also, I want more money. Give it to me, please.
So what type of wage would you be looking for?
I'd be looking for about $600,000 plus unlimited PTO. Plus, I want you guys to buy me a new home. I'd also like to relocate to maybe Greece, anywhere that I can just like soak up the sun whenever I want. And I'd also like you to buy me a new dog.
Well, I appreciate you hearing our offer out. It sounds like it's not going to be a good fit for us at this time, but we really appreciated meeting you. Good luck on your job search.
Dun, dun, dun. I thought I was going to get the job. That's really crazy.
Yeah, you started out so strong.
I was really good, but then I kind of got nervous. So I was like,
you were
let me just.
so strong. I was like, wow, she's showing appreciation. She thanked them for their time. All great things.
I just went for the chaotic energy.
It's okay. Sometimes we get a little chaotic in the job search, right?
Yes.
Let's talk about ways you could have improved.
Yes, please. I would love that.
When you came back and you brought up your skills and experience, give it a little bit more detail. Talk about what specific skills you have, how many years of experience, all the great things you did at other brands, which would indicate that you're going to do even more here.
Check.
When you give a wage, give a little bit of a range. Make sure you've done your research and it's a reasonable amount.
Check.
And then give them an opportunity to respond. You just went in on all your, needs. Silence is your friend. So give the employer a chance to kind of sit with it and then come back to you with what they can do. Sometimes you won't get that information right away, but we got to become friends with silence.
Wow. I think you're just reading me for filth because you also are like,
Gina, I need you to be more silent more often.
Not in this situation.
Okay. Yeah. I think that the viewers and the listeners at home would really appreciate that, especially when it comes to negotiating salary. So now let's really get into that nitty gritty of salary negotiation. First, I want to ask you, since one, you're a career coach, you're always helping people with this. So do you ever get nervous or excited? How do you feel about negotiating salary?
I literally hate negotiating salary.
Okay.
I mean, I think there are people that would agree with me on this. It's not the most comfortable thing. And even career coaches who know what we should and shouldn't be doing and how to do that process, we get it wrong. And to be honest, Gina, if it was the role was reversed, I would probably have gone a little bit similar like you, with how I was approaching the situation.
You want that home in Greece. You want the free things. You want the perks.
Actually, I take that back. The moment you would have said, we're offering you $75,000, I would have been like, okay, thanks.
You were like, okay.
Yeah, sounds great.
It depends. I think sometimes I get a little bit excited, especially if I know the role is just for me. So I think that if I'm confident, then I'm like, okay, I can negotiate the salary because I know I'm the right person for this job. But if I'm not too sure about the job anyways, and I'm just kind of going through the motions, I'm going to be a little bit nervous to prove my worth.
Yeah, I think it's just a natural tendency to undervalue yourself.
Yeah.
Right. And then especially if you're in a job search that has been going on for months, it's that tendency to just want to say yes, just so you get out of the search. Sometimes you just got to shake that off, right?
Agreed. There's people who are more entry level, people who are switching industries. How does a salary negotiation typically work?
I mean, just kind of top to bottom, first things first, you're going to be given an initial offer. More than likely, it's going to be verbal. You can ask for it in writing, and that's what you'll be reviewing. Then you're going to issue your counteroffer. When you issue it, make sure you give a little bit of time for them to react. They may not have a response right away. And so the employer is then going to come back with either their counteroffer or just their response as to whether or not they can actually come up or, improve what they've given you in the first place. And then there's the final decision. Hopefully you've come to a mutually beneficial agreement, but in between that, there could be a couple of rounds of back and forth.
But also, I think there's certain things that people don't know that could work in their favor. So do you have any examples of what people can leverage when they're in that salary negotiation stage?
When it comes to leverage, one of the best things that you can lean back on is that market research that you did. And really, that's where all of the preparation starts. Even looking at, of course, we talked about job descriptions, kind of knowing what a fair wage would be. And then that assessment of your skills, because you need to be able to back up your, counteroffer with examples and a strong case for why you deserve more money. Other things that you can leverage, other job offers. If you've got another one on the table, you can let them know, you know what, as I let you know, I have been interviewing with other companies. I do have another offer in hand. This is the company that I really want. However, this offer from company B is $10,000 more. Do you think we can come up? That gives them the opportunity to increase just on that. And sometimes time. If they're looking to bring somebody in right away and they seem really excited to have you, you can let them know what number they could offer you that would make you say yes right away.
Okay, so it's kind of like any other type of negotiation in life. You really got to use what you have in your back pocket as a way to kind of get what you want. But you're doing that back and forth. You're really trying to get exactly what you want, but, you know, they're also trying to get exactly what they want. That's why it's called negotiation. How many rounds of negotiation should you go through before you should just be like, okay, this is as good as it's going to get?
I mean, it can really vary. Sometimes it's as simple as just you receiving the offer, you do the counter offer, and they meet you where they are. Fantastic. Be prepared for them to come back and say, well, actually, the budget is pretty tight for this role. And unfortunately, we can't come up on base. In that situation, you could counter again and talk about those other parts of the compensation package. You could look at requesting additional days off. You could look at a sign-on bonus, or even increasing your number of stock options that you get. So it can really vary depending upon which part of the compensation package you're wanting to negotiate.
There's a couple different ways that you can still keep the negotiation going. But I think there's a point when you're like, okay, do I just stop? You know, am I just like, okay, the salary negotiations are done. Do I walk away? Or is there still an opportunity to still get what you want?
I mean, sometimes you gotta read the room, right?
Yeah.
Active listening goes a long way in a negotiation process. If when they offered you the position, they said, this is gonna be our final offer. Unfortunately, this is as high as we can go. You're not necessarily gonna wanna push back and ask for an increase in that base. More than capable of asking about some of those other pieces of the package that we talked about. But if you're getting the vibe from the recruiter that this is it, I wouldn't want to push on that. You could also look at how good that offer was. If they came in even at the top of your range, and ideally the range that you gave was even over the number that you would really take, it's okay to not negotiate. You could just take that offer for what it is because they came in with a really, really great one.
Well, I feel like you mentioned a really good point, and I think that like we're all human. Like I feel like the salary negotiation process is almost one of the most human processes in this whole job search journey. So, how do you feel like job seekers can really see the salary negotiation process from the recruiter perspective?
Absolutely. So, from the recruiter's perspective, negotiation is just part of the process. A lot of them are trained to just accept it and they know and anticipate that one will be coming.
Yeah.
And then you got to think about the recruiter's position. So if they're working for the company itself, they're an internal recruiter, they might have performance metrics that they have to meet. So they could be willing to work with you and help you get to a number that would make you say yes. And then of course, if the recruiter works for a third-party agency, it might also be in their benefit to help you negotiate a higher salary because more than likely they're getting a percentage of what your final salary is going to be. So it is in their best interest to get you to a yes.
See, I feel like a lot of people don't know that. I feel like a lot of people honestly probably don't know the difference between those two types of recruiters. So hopefully negotiation won't seem as scary to job seekers to know that like, the recruiter might just be on your side and they want to get you that moolah, that money. To wrap it up, I want to take us back to Scott's comment that we got because I really think it's super relevant to all the things we've been talking about today. What are some of your best practices for negotiating salary?
So my best tips for negotiating salary is one, start with that market research and assess your skills. That's going to help you determine what your professional value is. Then you're going to want to express gratitude when an offer comes in. If you can, negotiate either in person or over the phone because that gives a little bit more opportunity for you to actually express that gratitude. Want to have a number in mind, give a range, be able to back that range up with all of the great skills and experience that you have, which would tell the employer, this is why I deserve that money. Also, be prepared to walk away. If they give you an offer that is just below your needs, sometimes you do have to say no. But just don't be afraid of the negotiation process because recruiters really expect it and they understand it's just business.
It's just business. Hashtag.
Hashtag just business.
Just business. Well, thank you so much for these amazing tips. I feel like the job seekers are shaking in their boots because you just gave them all the things they need for that negotiation toolkit. And that's all we have time for. So thank you so much for watching this episode of Job Search Stories by Indeed. Please, I'm begging you, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. You'll get so many beautiful tips for your job search journey. And leave a comment down below because we love answering your questions on this channel. So bye.
Bye. Okay, Gina, we're talking. All
right
Gina.
and okay together.
All right and okay. Roking.
Oh, do. Can I stand up and like walk towards the camera and be like,
Just go.
what do you mean just
You
go?
gotta do the
I'm supposed to.
question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nutcrackers, get your nutcrackers.